Many people ask me what do I think is the most pseudoscientific of all pseudoscience. My first response would always be homeopathy, but astrology comes very close behind it. I had done a 4-part series debunking astrology when I started this channel, for those who still remember it. Now, one type of astrology that I did not touch that time was Nadi Jyotisha or Nadi Jyotisham or Nadi Astrology. Similar to the so-called Vedic astrology, Nadi Jyotisha is also a pakka fraud. I always thought this form of astrology was more popular in Tamil Nadu and neighboring areas than anywhere else. But surprise, surprise, when I did a Google search, I found that it is not just based out of there. There were centers for it all over the country. I also remembered getting a WhatsApp forward during the COVID pandemic where a Nadi astrologer was making predictions. Well, it is difficult for me to describe it. So check his video out.
So in the 2020 எப்படி இருக்கும்?
Watch out, he's going to get a secret revelation. Okay, I'm back. So what is Nadi Jyotisha? Why is it a fraud, and what techniques do the astrologers employ to cheat the gullible public? If you look it up on YouTube, you will end up seeing a lot of videos supporting this as usual. You will see Nadi astrologers talking how great this method is. All of them don't forget to put in their phone numbers on the title so that you don't miss out calling them and getting scammed. Then there are some Vedic astrology folks who have taken it on themselves to debunk Nadi astrology on their own and promote their own pseudoscience. I'm sure there will be Nadi astrologers who would debunk Vedic astrology if given a chance. In fact, many people claim that Norman astrology may be a fake, but Nadi astrology is ekdam perfect. If astrology is supported by the common people, it is the highly educated public which holds Nadi astrology on their shoulders. But as usual, there are hardly any videos debunking it from a science perspective, so I had to do it, right? You know me, when I see pseudoscience, my hand starts itching until I completely debunk it with evidence. That is what we will do in today's video. Before we move on to the main part, I have a small request. If you like my content, please do press the like button or add a comment, and better still, share my videos. This would cause the YouTube algorithm to recommend the video to many others and will help this channel grow. Hello, I'm Anand and I welcome you to Pale Blue Thoughts, the channel which debunks pseudoscience and promotes scientific temper, and today we will destroy Nadi Jyotisha. Nadi astrology is a form of astrology practiced mainly in Tamil Nadu and adjacent areas. Predominantly, it is based out from Kumbakonam in Tamil Nadu, where there is a temple named Vaitheeswaran Koil. This temple's deity is famous for curing the leprosy of the planet Mars. Oh well, that's for another day, another story. Apart from this, the streets outside the temple is full of small local shops, all bearing the signs of Nadi astrologers. When you reach the village, there are numerous signs inviting you to the original Nadi astrologer, the one and only Nadi consultant, and so on. In fact, almost all of them claim that they are the original. Of course, either one of them could be, but it's likely that all of them are false, just like the numerous gods that people believe in. These Swamis who do the predictions are called Shiva Swamis, and apparently there are plenty of them around, as everyone claims that name when they enter this trade. And then there are numerous touts or agents who would promise you to take you to the Shiva Swami, the one and original one. They also strike up a friendly conversation with you and get a lot of information about you during their casual talks. This would then get passed on to the Nadi astrologer for a commission. You don't realize the treacherous trickery involved in here due to its subtlety. Okay, now a bit about the history of this forgery. Some claim that Shiva and Parvati were having a conversation one day. So Parvati asked Shiva about the future of humankind, and Shiva, the all-knower, describes the future of every human being ever to live on this planet. And some sages, the names differ according to many stories, but they had placed hidden microphones in the room or garden or wherever they were sitting and captured this and wrote it down on palm leaves. There is another version that our ancient sages knew about the future of everyone, since they achieved the highest level of consciousness through their meditative practices and yoga and so on. Sorry, not yoga, as yoga is a modern 19th century invention. But you know the drill, right? The more ancient it is, the more better it is. It goes without saying for wine and whiskey, but not for wisdom and science. Down south, it is more attributed to a sage named Agastya, giving it a name Agastya Nadi Jyotish. In some other parts, the name Bhrigu is mentioned as the writer of the destinies on palm leaves. The writings on the palm leaves are in an obscure language called Vatteluthu, which became extinct in 12th century, and apparently only those astrologers know how to read it. And they don't show or give the palm leaves to you for inspection. It's a closely guarded secret. Mind it. So according to the sources, there is supposedly one palm leaf inscription for every human on this earth, past, present and future, which was written down some 4,000 odd years ago. Taking into account the population explosion in the modern era, the whole place should be chock-a-block full of palm leaves, amounting to more than 1,000 crore at least. But miraculously, this is not so. Also, the shops that these astrologers sit are just a bit larger than a tea shop. How can they house so many palm leaves of billions of people? This could mean two things. Either the ancients had the foresight to know as to who would visit the place, and hence only the biodata of those visitors would be available, or the leaves are preserved in some format wherein terabytes of data could be compressed and stored on palm leaves. For the ancient yogis and munis who flew intergalactic flights and created missiles and rocket technology, making a pen drive out of palm leaves must have been just a simple science project for school. Now, as with everything else, the final blame falls on the Britishers, who looted our country and also destroyed a lot of these manuscripts along with our so-called culture and heritage. But for some strange reason, they also preserved a lot of manuscripts, possibly for burning it to protect themselves from cold in the year 1947, but we drove them off mid-August itself. And since they were allowed only 15 kilos in their check-in baggage, they auctioned these palm leaves off, which were obtained by the families of astrologers at the Vaitheeswaran temple. So these palm leaves are the ones that they use today to guess things about you and to predict things. So how does one know which palm leaf holds your future? There is a simple process for getting the right palm leaf. You have to provide your right thumb impression if you are a man, or a left thumb impression if you are a woman. Don't ask me why. I don't know, and neither do they. Along with it, you need to provide your date of birth. No, don't give your Aadhaar card. I will tell you why later. Now, the astrologer goes inside to look for your palm leaf, which holds your destiny. You wait with bated breath. You would think it would take a long time for him to find out a manuscript, because currently there are about 800 crore people or 8 billion people currently living in this world. There is an estimate that there has been 109 billion people that have lived before this current 8 billion. And there is going to be billions who are still in liquid form inside the scrotums. But the guy comes back earlier than you expect. I mean, it must be a mean filing system that they have there if you have to retrieve your palm leaf from among 120 plus billion leaves. Google should learn from them to manage their searches. ChatGPT, are you listening? No wonder your intelligence is artificial. You should learn to attain a higher level of consciousness like the sages, bruh. Now the Shiva Swami appears before you smiling and tells you that he has a few sets of palm leaves which he thinks contains your destiny. There are a number of write-ups praising its accuracy, and there are blogs testifying to the same. There have been numerous accounts stating that the practitioners of Nadi have an accurate method of telling all about the past, present and future of any individual. All they need for identifying the right leaf is the thumbprint of the person and the date of birth. Now, to accurately identify it, you should answer a few questions with a yes or no. Then starts the game of 20 questions where the astrologer tries his cold reading techniques on you. Now, the only problem is that it is not limited to 20 questions but around 200. The aim of these questions is to correctly guess personal details about you. He also recites poems which you won't understand. He would try to guess your name, the day in which you were born, your father's and mother's name, the number of siblings you have, and all such silly stuff. Now, what is the big deal about guessing your name or your parents' name? That is not a prediction. They already have names. Now why would they waste 2-3 hours trying to guess when they can ask the person and he or she can tell all this to them? It is such a waste of both people's time, don't you think? But here is where the believer's mentality takes over. Rationality and logic takes a backseat and blind belief takes over the steering wheel. The trick that the astrologers employ is a method called cold reading. Cold reading is a technique used by some individuals, mainly astrologers and psychics, to create the illusion of knowing specific information about someone without actually having any prior knowledge about them. It involves making general statements or asking open-ended questions that can apply to a wide range of people and then using the person's reactions, body language and responses to guide further statements or guesses. In simple words, it is like a guessing game where the person doing the reading makes general statements or asks questions, and based on the person's reactions, they make educated guesses about the person's life, personality or experiences. They may ask things like, does your name begin with a J, L, N, M or S? Then they jump over to a completely irrelevant tangent like, are your parents alive? After several such questions, the gullible believer is completely confused.
अरे कहना क्या चाहते हो?
By paying close attention to the person's responses, body language or subtle cues, the reader may adjust their statements or ask more specific questions to appear as though they have special insights or psychic abilities. This can make the person being read feel like the reader knows a lot about them, even though the information is based on general observations and guesses. It is like throwing a lot of pebbles onto a glued wall and hoping some would stick. If he makes a guess and he gets it wrong, he would keep that palm leaf aside and take another. You want the exact match, don't you? To get to your name, he would ask questions like, is it related to a god or is it related to a specific thing, and so on. A majority of Indian names have some connection with a god, so you would make that connection and reply accordingly. Deep in your mind, you want the astrologer to succeed because you believe in this waste. If you say that your name doesn't start with a J, then they go on to other groups of letters. If your parents named you Kiara, the Shivaswami would really struggle to find your name. But if it was Rahul or something common, he would be able to guess it without too much discomfort.
Oh, I'm sorry, मैंने अपने आप को introduce नहीं किया. I'm Rahul. नाम तो सुना होगा. मेरा नाम बबलू चौधरी है.
I would like to see the current WHO head to visit a Nadi astrologer, and I want to see him correctly guess his name. If you want to see how they operate, I shall give you a link to one such reading in my description for you to watch later. In that video, you will see how he tries various times to get some information from the lady. As a believer, you will be brimming with information that you would want to provide to the astrologer because you want him to get to the right palm leaf, which is why you are there in the first place. You would only be too eager to bleed any information that he wants. You are being scammed right there. You would start to forget that you didn't go there to have your name or your parents' name told. But when he tells you your parents' name correctly, you are shocked. This is called stunning before slaughtering. In the meat industry, animals are stunned by applying electric shock to their brains so that they don't feel the pain when they are killed. This is what is happening here too. You are stunned that he was able to guess your name or your parents' name even if it was after numerous tries. Your brain is now stunned and you would now believe whatever is being told to you.
Khatam. Bye bye. Tata. Goodbye. Gaya.
Once he has found your palm leaf, he would proceed to tell everything about your life. Every event is clearly recorded on the palm leaf by the ancients. Now I wonder how a 10 cm by 50 cm palm leaf could hold so much information about a single person. It should contain information about your education, your work details, your partners and children's details, your struggles, your achievements. I mean, my resume is longer than this. But then when all you need to do is make up stories with the data that you have already got through hot and cold reading, you don't need the palm leaf, I guess. It becomes just like a prop in a serial. So what the Nadi astrologers are doing in reality is getting information about you, from you, and presenting it back to you. Next comes the information about your past. When I mean past, it is not what happened 10 years back. it is what you did in your previous life. So now you have to believe in a soul, rebirth and karma. Outlandish, right? You would always be a prince or a king or at least a chief commander of an army. No one would like to hear that they were a bus driver or a road sweeper in their previous janam, right? No disrespect to bus drivers or sweepers, as I think all work is equal in dignity, but the general perception is different. So he would tell you that you were someone of importance in your previous life and your ego gets bloated. This is a technique called fine flattery. You are now imagining a scene where you are sitting on a throne and pretty damsels are dancing around you. And for some strange reason, you are always a Brahmin in your previous life. At the least, a Kshatriya, never any other caste. Isn't it strange? Of course, your ego needs a bit more boost, doesn't it? And you would have always committed some petty crime for which you are punished in this life, which is why you are in the current state and you have come to the astrologer. Of course, no one visits an astrologer when things are going right for them, right? Imagine running to an astrologer if you just won ₹1,000,000 or if your son cleared his board exams with a 99.9999%. You wouldn't. You would go to an astrologer when things are not going well for you. You're fighting with your partner, your son has failing grades, you just lost a lot of money in business. They know it and they manipulate you with their tricks. Next comes the parihara or the solution. This is their business model. You end up paying for the sins of your past life by doing a puja in this life. How very logical and rational thought, isn't it? Then they use scare tactics to fuel the fear in your limbic system. Your reptilian brain, which has evolved to be scared when threatened, bows down without a whimper and you fall prey to the astrologer's terrifying ploys. More misfortune is going to come your way, so doing this puja is the only solution. You accept. Deal done. Business treaty is sealed.
जब जेब में मनी हो ना तो कुंडली में शनि होने से कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता. ये मेरी एस्ट्रोलॉजी. चला जा.
The eyes of the astrologer glows green. It used to glow pink until a few weeks ago, but apparently it doesn't glow that color these days. So how does the system really work? It involves a lot of psychology. The information about the client is gathered by the following methods. The client and those accompanying them are asked to wait until the proper leaves are found. During this time, they are asked to wait in a room which is wired and the conversation is spied upon. The agent or tout who took you to the astrologer may also pass on the information that you gave him during your casual conversations with him to the astrologer. The astrologer is a clever cold reader. He notes the reactions of the client and those who accompany them to check the accuracy of the predictions. Names and other specific details are rooted out by trying to guess the first alphabet of the word followed by the second one and so on by the process of elimination. That is why I said you shouldn't hand over your Aadhaar card earlier. That would just make his job easier. Now coming to the predictions. Almost all of the statements that the astrologer would make are Barnum statements. I had discussed in detail about Barnum statements and Forer effect in my astrology debunking video, so I won't go into detail here. Our brains have a tendency to focus on the specific statements that you believe applies to you and ignore the more general ones that could apply to anyone. Another method that they employ is called shotgunning. Shotgunning involves providing the believer with a variety of general statements about their personality traits, future events or life circumstances. These statements are often broad and applicable to a wide range of individuals, allowing the astrologer to increase the likelihood of hitting upon something that seems accurate or relevant to the client. Like, he may start a sentence saying, "Someone in your family has a disease." If you give a positive cue, then the questions would be on various organs like heart, liver, etc. If you give a positive cue when he mentions heart, then the questions would be whether someone has had a heart attack in your family or has heart related issues and so on. By doing this, the astrologer claims to create a sense of validation and credibility. Some also use a technique called as rainbow ruse. This involves making a statement that appears to be specific and tailored to an individual, but in reality it is vague and applies to a wide range of people. The statement typically involves multiple components or options, each representing a different color of the rainbow. For example, an astrologer using the rainbow rules might say, I sense that you have a strong connection to the color red, or perhaps it's orange, or even yellow. By offering a range of options, the astrologer covers a broad spectrum of possibilities and increases the likelihood that the client will find something that resonates with them. The client may then focus on the part of the statement that aligns with their own experiences or preferences, enabling the astrologer to home in on specific instances of the client's life. Another technique that they use is called fishing for information. It involves the astrologer subtly and indirectly probing the client for information without explicitly asking direct questions. Astrologers who employ this technique may make general statements or ask open-ended questions to get specific responses from the client. For instance, they might ask, have you recently gone through any major life changes? Or do you have any concerns about your career? These questions prompt the client to disclose relevant details that can be incorporated into the astrologer's analysis. The goal is to make the client feel that the astrologer has deep knowledge and that they are accurate in the readings. All of the information is provided by the client from their reactions to yes or no questions or from subconscious body signals through the use of cold reading techniques that I mentioned. In case you are a person who is quite experienced in providing misleading body signals or is an expert in maintaining a deadpan face, the astrologer would not be in a position to acquire any knowledge about you by this method, in which case he would make lame excuses that they are not able to find the right palm leaf and will ask you to come again next time. If the reading is done by an astrologer in Mumbai or Delhi, for instance, they would simply say that perhaps their leaf is not present with them, but it definitely would be present outside the Vaitheeswaran Koil, so you would have to go there. I have said this before, like a cat, astrology will always fall on four legs. Narendra Nayak, the famous skeptic and rationalist, once exposed such a fraud by giving them wrong signals, and ultimately the astrologer made a lot of incorrect guesses and finally backed out in failure. Sun TV also did an expose some years ago where they went to a few Nadi astrologers to learn their secret and made a 3-part series exposing how in the local villages around the Vaitheeswaran Koil, palm farmers gather palm leaves, cut them into shape and boil them using some chemicals to give it an ancient or old appearance. They then proceed to write any gibberish using a sharp instrument or stone. I think the first 2 parts had to be removed due to copyright strike, but the 3rd part is still available on YouTube. Link is in the description and the video is in Tamil. So to conclude, astrology is downright trickery and a sham, and Nadi astrology is no different. These people prey on the greed and fear in people and end up stealing their hard-earned money and make them lose their common sense.
कौन है ये लोग? कहां से आते हैं ये?
But as long as the buyers are there, the killing would not stop. I hope you will share this video with others so that at least some people see the truth and save themselves from being scammed. I know this has been a rather long video, but I hope you liked the content. If you did, please like, comment, share and subscribe. I have also enabled my membership options, so if you would like to become a member and get some additional perks, please do join it. I shall be back real soon with yet another interesting episode. Until then, it's bye-bye from Pale Blue Thoughts.